Welcome everyone. Thanks so much for watching this video today, and it's a pleasure to welcome back Paul Sellaway from Optics Digital. Thanks very much, Paul.
Yeah, hi Lee. Thanks for having me back today.
So today we wanted to talk about some simple things that we can do to our websites to improve the number of people who are a visitor to the website and convert into an appointment. And there's so much traffic that we get from Google. There's a lot of people that come to visit our site and browse around a bit and then leave the site. And I'm sure, Paul, in your research, you've seen hundreds of optometry websites and that they would struggle to attract people into actual appointments. Would that be true?
Yeah, I think so. As you said, I have done a kind of an analysis of a lot of optometry websites. I think we did over 150 in the study that I did. And I think a lot of them are, they're maybe not always dramatic things, but just things that could be tweaked or improved just to improve the conversion rate of visitors coming to this site and then becoming actual paying patients. So, sometimes if you can just move the conversion rate from 10% to 15%, that actually has a dramatic impact on your bottom line. So there are some, simple things that I think people can do that are going to help grow their business and grow their bank account. And so that's the kind of thing that I think I can, give advice around.
Absolutely. And Paul, you mentioned that you're happy to give advice if people want to reach out to you. They can tap the link in the description underneath this video, and you're happy to have a look at their website and give them some free suggestions.
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody wants to get like a free design audit, I'd be happy to take a look and give you like some action points that you could follow up on to improve the overall design and conversion rate.
Awesome. Fantastic. And we'll leave a link to that in the video description under this. So Paul, it'd be great if you could have a chat to us. What are some simple things that we can do as practice owners to be able to improve our website conversion rate?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm going to assume that this advice applies to practice owners who are using a CMS, a content management system like WordPress or something similar that they can, where they can easily update the content and even the design themselves, or that they have access to a webmaster or a developer who can do that for them. But I think that one thing, and this applies really to all websites, not just optometry sites, but that is, you should ask yourself the question: Does your site pass the 3-second test? And so what I mean by that is that if a complete stranger, first time visitor comes to your site, are they going to be able to tell within 3 seconds, what are you providing? Why is it important to them? And how do they get it? How do they take action to benefit from that? So that's the 3-second test. And I think that maybe like one of the common mistakes people make is with their homepage, particularly like that first part of the page that you see. We call that the above the fold. They use headings that are sometimes, well, maybe try to be clever or cute when it may be very clear to you what you're offering, but it's not always clear to the person who's arriving there for the first time. So concise and clear beats clever and cute every time. So, for example, like if your website's homepage says something like, eyes on you, a visionary experience. Well, what does that really mean? I mean, if I didn't know if I didn't have any other context around it, that could be very confusing to me. So something that's a little more straightforward, like ABC optometrists, eye care professionals serving North Melbourne for 15 years or something. That's very clear now what it is you're providing, and your value, the benefit that you're providing through your experience. That's also included in that tagline. So I think that just checking, just making sure that your website does pass the 3-second test. So someone coming to the site, can they understand what you're providing, why it's important, and how to get it, what action they need to take. So that would be the first thing. The second is, do you have a simple navigation system in place that conforms to user expectations? Like we're all experienced with using websites, and typically when you come to a website, there's especially on a desktop, there's a navigation bar across the top. You've got a logo either in the middle, but it's usually on the top left-hand corner. The logo is clickable, takes you back to the home page. These are all usability conventions that we're all familiar with. I have seen some people who kind of introduce some weird and wonderful navigation menus of their own, and I think the question is, like, if people are used to using websites in a particular way, do you really want to force them to relearn all of that to get the benefit from your own site? So I always tell clients that a usability convention is a terrible thing to waste. It's something, if people are used to interacting with websites in a certain way, then you should leverage that, take advantage of that. Don't try and force people to change the habits of a lifetime. So the next point I would make is, try to be consistent with your use of fonts and brand colors. Okay, so like if you look at like professionally done sites, they usually only use like maybe 2 fonts, perhaps at a pinch 3, but there's usually 1 or 2 different fonts, and they're very consistent with that. They usually use consistent brand colors. Like there's usually like 2 or maybe 3 colors that also correspond to the logo. And there's a very good reason for all of that. So years ago, when I first got started in web design, I read a book called "Don't Make Me Think" by a guy called Steve Krug, and I think that sentence pretty much sums up design in a lot of ways. So when you come across something, whether it be a device or whether it's a website, if it all just seems intuitive, if you don't have to expend a lot of mental energy figuring out how to use the thing, then check, that's a win. That's what you really want from anything, is to have something be intuitive. So the problem with using a bunch of different fonts, a bunch of different colors, is that humans are hardwired to try to identify patterns in the world around us. So if somebody comes to your site and they see like half a dozen different fonts, whether they know it or not, in their brain they're trying to figure out what's the logic behind it. There must be some meaning. If I've got text over here that's in green and text over here that's in blue, is there some reason for that difference? What is it? So you're just introducing a lot of unnecessary complexity into your site, and you're making people burn unnecessary calories in their brain trying to understand the logic behind your site and what it is you're presenting. So yeah, so try to be consistent with your fonts, try to be consistent with your brand colors, and I think that's going to take you a long way. Another thing that I would recommend is that you put a contact phone number at the top of the page, at the top of the screen, and that's especially important on mobile screens, because if you're looking at a site, you've got the phone in your hand, so the obvious thing to do is to click on the phone number and connect with the practice. And when I did my study, I actually found that about 64% of the sites that I looked at did have a phone number at the top of the screen. So not always clickable, but 64% at least had that phone number up there. And another thing that I think is good practice also is to put an address, like your actual like store address, or the street address, up there as well. Because one of the things that people do when they come to your site is, if you pass the 3 second test, then the next thing they're thinking about is like, what are the logistics of actually getting here? Like, where are you? They're trying to get a mental image of where you are in their town or their local region, or they're part of the city or whatever. So if you have an address on there, I think then that kind of answers that question out of the gate. And it's also good for Google as well. It's also good for your search engine optimization if you're telling Google where you are, so that they can place you on their maps and that sort of thing. So I found that only about 27%. I only found about 27% of the sites I looked at had that address at the top of their page. So that's something else I think that site owners can do. Another thing I would suggest is try to add your practitioner personality, if I can put it that way, into the site. So like optometry is a very sort of high touch occupation, if I can say that. Like it's not like plumbers or an electrician or something where they come in the door and you say, there's the hot water heater, mate, have at it. If you're an optician, if you're an optometrist, you're working very, very closely with your patients, and so there's a lot of human interaction in there. So I think that it makes good sense to sort of put yourself and put your staff front and center in your web presence, so that people are already starting to become familiar with you even before they make the call, even before they come to your place of business. So having photos of your optometrist, your opticians, your receptionist, your key staff members, all of that helps. And in the study I did, I actually found 70% of optometry sites have those staff photos either on the homepage or on the About Us page. So I think if you're part of the 30% that doesn't, then I think that's an easy win that you can address. Get some photos on there. Video also, I think, is something else that people should consider adding. Like they say, what do they say? A photo says 1,000 words. Well, I think if that's the case, a video says 1,000,000 words. Something about video that just really connects with people. So it doesn't matter if it's not Steven Spielberg quality. That's okay. I think that any video that you put on your site is kind of like a window into you, your style of service. It's a window into your business, and I think that really goes a long way to making a connection with your potential patients.
Yeah, absolutely.
So another piece of advice I'd say is, if you have a practice speciality, if there's something that you particularly focused on, or if you have, let's say, like a new service that you're offering, anything like that, I think you should double down on it and really emphasize that on your site. So there's a book called The Purple Cow by a writer called Seth Godin. Have you read that one, Lee?
I haven't. I've heard of it. It sounds really interesting.
Yeah, well, Seth in his book, he says, like, he went on a road trip with his family, and they're going through the country somewhere. And as they're driving along, there's like thousands of cows they're driving past, and his kids in the back were just like not paying any attention to them at all, of course. But he had the thought to himself, like, what if one of these cows was purple? What would happen? Just what would happen in that case? Of course, everyone in the car would demand that he stop, and they'd get out. They'd take photos, whatever, because it's unique, it's remarkable. It's completely different. So, and I think that if there's something in your practice that sets you apart from all the other optometrists out there, then you should embrace the purple cow, and sort of like really lean into that fact. So, like if you're well known for being one of the leaders in therapeutic optometry or behavioral optometry or whatever, then I would recommend that you actually sort of emphasize that a bit. There's also something called in marketing theory. There's something called the halo effect. It's like people assume that if you're good at one thing, that automatically you're good at a whole bunch of other things. So it's I think the classic example is like Oprah Winfrey. Like she's obviously a very successful woman. She's a very well known, successful, media personality. But there's an Oprah Winfrey book club. So millions of people want to know what Oprah Winfrey is reading, and read the same books, and like not because Oprah Winfrey has like a PhD in librarian studies, not because she's like a better reader than anyone else, but people just assume that because she's successful at what she does, that that she must have something, and that that's the halo effect. People have a lot of trust if you're very good at one thing, that you must be good at other things as well. So by emphasizing your success in a particular aspect of optometry, I think that can flow on into all aspects of your practice. And I think the last point I've got for you is, have a clear call to action on your site. And by call to action, I mean, like, what is it that people have to do to take the next step with you? Is it to click? Is it click a button to make an appointment online? Is it to make a phone call? Is it send you an email? So what is it? So make it clear. So nobody should ever leave your site because empty-handed, because they were confused about what action to take next. It's like that. It's like that meme, I think, that goes around the internet. I think it's from Futurama, where the guy's waving a fistful of money and he's saying, "Take my damn money." you know. So you never want to be in a position where people are very eager to do business with you, but you've left them confused about what steps to take next. So Amazon's very good at this, because they just test the heck out of everything. So Amazon's very good with their call to actions. They always have those, big yellow buttons: click here, buy now, one click checkout, all that kind of thing. So I think we can all take a leaf from them and really make sure that call to action is clear and obvious. So those are my I think seven tips, Lee. Of I think things that optometry practice owners can do with their websites to improve the conversion rate and really grow their business and add to their bottom line.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, thanks for sharing these insights from your 150 websites that you've reviewed and researched, and some really useful things that we can take away. And so Paul, if practices want to go the next step with you, and maybe they want to take a free audit for their website, or they just want to do a redesign or refresh their website, they can tap the link underneath this video to reach out to you.
That's right. Yeah. So my agency is Optics Digital Marketing, or opticsdigital.net, and the link for that is in Lee's show notes, of course. So reach out to me if you'd like someone to give you some feedback on your site. I'd be happy to do a free design audit for you.
Fantastic. Great. Thanks for the great tips, Paul.
Yep. No worries. Thanks, Lee.
Awesome. We'll see you in the next video.
Okay. Bye-bye.